Sun in Taurus, this is where life begins to stabilize. After the raw ignition of Aries, Taurus comes in to root, to build, to sustain. This is fixed earth. This is the energy that takes an idea and turns it into something tangible, something lasting, something real. So when we're talking about individuals with the sun in Taurus, we are talking about people who are here to master the material world, the physical body, and the concept of value, not just money, but self worth, stability, and what it truly means to feel secure within yourself. This is not rushed energy. This is not reactive energy. Taurus moves slowly, intentionally, and with purpose. And that's because Taurus understands something that a lot of people don't. What is built too quickly can fall apart just as fast. So, if you have your sun in Taurus, your entire life is about learning how to build something that lasts without becoming too attached to comfort that you stop evolving. Let's start with the core essence of Taurus energy. The sun represents your identity, your vitality, your ego, your sense of I am. And when that sun sits in Taurus, the statement becomes I am what I build, I am what I sustain. There is a deep connection here to the physical world. Taurus suns are incredibly aware of their environment, their senses, and their body. They feel life through texture, through taste, through comfort, through consistency. This is a Venus ruled sign, which means there is a natural appreciation for beauty, pleasure, and quality. Taurus suns are not interested in anything that feels rushed, chaotic, or unstable. They want peace, they want security, they want something they can rely on. And in its highest expression, this energy is incredibly grounding. Taurus suns are steady, loyal, reliable, and deeply committed. When they decide on something, they don't waver. They see things through. They are the builders, the sustainers, the ones who create foundations that other people can stand on. There's also a deep patience here. Taurus understands timing. It understands that growth takes time, that success is cultivated, not rushed. So when they are aligned, they move with intention. They invest their energy wisely. They don't chase, they attract. There's also a very nurturing quality to Taurus energy. They show love through consistency, through presence, through creating comfort for the people they care about. They may not always be the most verbally expressive, but their actions speak loudly. If a Taurus sun is in your life and they're showing up for you consistently, that is love. Now let's talk about the ego. The Taurus ego is built around security and control of the physical world. These individuals need to feel safe. They need to feel like they have control over their resources, their environment, and their stability. And this is where the shadow begins to show. Because when your identity is tied to stability, anything that threatens that stability can feel like a threat to your sense of self. So, in its lower expression, the sun in Taurus can become resistant to change, stubborn, and overly attached to comfort. This can look like staying in situations that no longer serve them, relationships, jobs, environments, simply because it feels familiar. It can also look like avoiding growth because growth requires discomfort, and Taurus does not naturally lean into discomfort. There can also be a tendency toward possessiveness. This can show up in relationships where Taurus may hold on too tightly, fearing loss or instability. It can also show up in material ways, becoming overly attached to money, possessions, or status as a way to feel secure. Another shadow expression is stagnation, because Taurus moves slowly. If they lose motivation or direction, they can get stuck. And once they're stuck, it can be very difficult to get them moving again. This is where we see procrastination, avoidance, or even overindulgence in comfort, whether that's food, rest, or escapism. Now let's talk about identity development. Taurus suns are here to build a sense of self worth that is not dependent on external validation. But the challenge is that they often tie their worth to what they have, their money, their success, their lifestyle. So their journey is about learning that true security comes from within, not from what you own, but from how you value yourself. And this is a process because Taurus needs to experience stability externally before they can internalize it. They need to build something real, something tangible to understand their own capability. But at some point, they have to detach from the idea that their worth is tied to that. Because if everything external were to change, who are you then? That's the deeper question Taurus has to answer. Now let's move into relationships. Taurus suns are incredibly loyal, committed, and consistent partners. They are not here for games. They're not here for chaos. They want something real, something stable, something that grows over time. They are sensual, affectionate, and deeply connected to physical touch and presence. They show love through actions, through being there, through providing, through creating a sense of safety. But the challenge comes with change because relationships evolve. And if Taurus resists that evolution, it can create tension. They may struggle with letting go, even when something is no longer aligned. They may hold on out of comfort rather than truth. So, the growth here is learning how to embrace change without feeling like they are losing themselves, understanding that stability doesn't need stagnation. Now, let's talk about navigating difficult energies. When Taurus energy is out of balance, it becomes rigid. So, the first step is awareness of where you are resisting change. Where are you holding on out of fear rather than alignment? Where are you choosing comfort over growth? Once you identify those patterns, the work is to gently introduce movement. And I say gently because Taurus does not respond well to force. This is about small, consistent shifts, changing your routine slightly, trying something new in a controlled way, expanding your comfort zone without overwhelming yourself. Another important practice is reconnecting with your body. Taurus energy is deeply physical. So when you feel stuck, grounding yourself through your senses can be incredibly powerful. Nature, food, touch, movement, these are not just pleasure for you, they are tools. They bring you back into alignment. But it's also important to be mindful of overindulgence because when Taurus is avoiding something, they may turn to comfort as a distraction. So the question becomes, is this nourishing me or is this numbing me? This distinction is everything. You also need to work on flexibility. And this doesn't mean becoming chaotic or unstable. It means allowing life to move without resisting every change. Because the truth is, change is inevitable. And the more you resist it, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Now, let's talk about prevention. For Taurus Sun, prevention is about staying connected to your values, not just material values, but internal values. What actually matters to you? What do you want to build long term? When you are clear on that, it becomes easier to make decisions that align with your growth. It's also about regularly checking in with yourself. Are you evolving or are you just maintaining? Because there's a difference. Maintenance is important, but so is growth, and you need both. Another key practice is learning to let go. Not everything is meant to last forever, and holding on too tightly can actually block new opportunities from coming in. So, part of your mastery is knowing when to stay and when to release. Now, in its highest form, the Sun in Taurus becomes a master builder, someone who creates stability, not just for themselves, but for others. Someone who understands value on a deep level, not just financially, but energetically. Someone who can enjoy the pleasures of life without becoming dependent on them. This is someone who is grounded, secure, and deeply connected to themselves. They don't need to chase. They don't need to prove. They simply are. And from that place, they attract everything that is aligned with them. Because true abundance is not about having more, it's about knowing you are enough. So, your life path, if you have the Sun in Taurus, is about building that inner and outer stability, creating a life that feels good, that is sustainable, that reflects your true values, but also allowing yourself to evolve because growth does not take away from your stability, it strengthens it. And when you understand that, everything shifts. You stop resisting change and you start working with it. And that is when your life becomes not just stable, but expansive.